It is, it's warm. It's going to be 82 degrees today for October 2nd. That's pretty hot. Where I got cut off, but my spreader it's different than, say, a sand spreader. It's a drum, I'll show it to you, and it's got holes in it that are about 2 inches. And as we're going along, it puts down little dots of compost. And so what I was doing now while my phone was cooling down was I'm covering this with lime, and the lime that I'm using is pelletized lime. So it's time released, and you know, it's a little bit more expensive, but I think it'll probably get the job done. I got 500 pounds, 50-pound bags, and I got 10 of them. So 500 pounds, and it was about $7 a bag, so $70. So that's not much. And lime always is a helper, you know, in field operations. You can never go wrong with lime. And then the other thing that I'm going to put in this as well is biochar. Biochar always, you can't put in too much biochar. And I have about 100 pounds for this whole thing, which is a shame. But I'm always adding it to the compost pile. You know, anytime I have extra, that's where it goes. And if you have a huge supply of scrap wood, which I do, I have access to, then it makes a lot of sense to turn it all into biochar and then spread it. So I'm not sure if I got the message out before I got cut off, but this field used to just be brown and extremely fragile. If you drove on it, it would break to pieces. You'd go through. Now you can drive anything out here. It's got a good layer of loam, and that layer of loam has a lot of biomaterial in it, biological material, biological beings that are, anytime we feed it with something, they're breaking it down and they're making more soil. So this will never get tilled up again. This will always be a hay field, you know, unless, you know, the waters rise or something like that, which I highly doubt. So this will always be a hay field. What do you know? Those sheep are eating lime. Huh, it smells good. But I'm gonna mix this up and then add the rest of the lime to it. I'm gonna add the seed to it and mix that up too. I'll show you the seed that I got. This seed, I got this at the beginning of summer. It was left over from last year. And this bag was $5, right? I'm not going to tell you where I got this because this year I'm going to clean them out. This seed was from this year, and it was $25. So it all comes from the same bags of seed, but I guess because they parted out and put it in these bags, they think that it's getting old. It doesn't get old. I mean, unless it's a million years old. When you're working on fields like this, as part of your composting program, is you want to be cognizant. I'll turn this around so you can look at them and don't have to listen to me. You want to be cognizant of the seed bank in this field. So anytime there's a break in the field, you want something that you want to come up. So it'd be real nice if more Timothy grass came up, or more clover came up, or more alfalfa. That's highly unlikely. Alfalfa, when you're putting alfalfa in, it's pretty finicky. So I don't fool with alfalfa. I mostly out here, I have Timothy, orchard grass. There is alfalfa when we did plant this. And then I'm always adding stuff like this. You know, I'll add a little bit more when I get the chance. You can always do it. And I think the natural thing that a person thinks of, sort of like painting a car, you think, well, I don't want to just paint this part of the car. I want to paint the whole thing. Well, you know, you got to do what you can with what you have. This is what I have. It'd be nice to drop $10,000 on this field and, you know, have it all completely done at the same time professionally, and we'll go this way and this way and this way. But in time, everything kind of levels up. As I said, when the cows manure out here, you have a big spot of fertility, and then after a while, those spots, they connect up. So when we fill the spreader with this beautiful potion here of great compost and lime and seed and biochar, when we do that, we're going to make a line right down the middle, and that's going to be an avenue for the organisms to connect up, and they will surely connect up. And this, although it is a good field, we can always improve the field. We can always make it, but we can always help it. Now, let's see. I don't know what it is about the screen, but you can't see anything on it anymore. I must have done something. So what's in this compost, you may ask? And I know the person that asked me to make this video is going to say, well, what should I put in and what shouldn't I put in? I read from time to time about composting, and I also read about raw milk, and I think I've developed a nose for untruth. I think I have. So you'll hear something that is, or you'll read something that was written by somebody who works for a university, and the universities all say, oh, you can't compost meat and bone. Oh no, because of, wait for it, pathogens. And people say that to me all the time. What about pathogens? And I usually say, do you even know what a pathogen is? Well, no. Then what are you worried about it for? I mean, people have been composting dead animals since the beginning of time. And are we worried about pathogens? No, that's something new that was made up. Maybe there's some truth to it, but we've been doing this a long time, and I've never had a pathogen attack. I've never come out here and had a bunch of mad pathogens running around. It just hasn't happened. So what do we put in this? We put all the feathers from the chicken composting operation, or the chicken processing operation. All those feathers go in here. All the manure from the cow's loafing area. That's where they lay around when they're not being milked, and they just lay in there and poop. All their bedding, whatever comes out of the outhouse. We have an outhouse here, and it's not a true outhouse. True outhouse is just a hole in the ground. This is, I think they call it an in-house. Whatever. It's just a little building. Looks like an outhouse, but there's a bucket in there. And then a little secret trap door that I can pull that bucket out. That goes in the compost pile. Ooh, pathogens. Come on, think about it, you know. If anything, we're getting diverse microbial entities coming to us. And then the next thing is, yeah, but what about if people are on pharmaceuticals? What if? You know, the secret to pollution is dilution. And what we are doing here is we're diluting anything in there, very much so. You know, I probably am taking a risk with this lime, but I have used it before, and it's worked pretty good. And did a little reading on it, and it's pretty good stuff, apparently, but you never know. But it has worked for me. Biochar, you can't go wrong. Feathers, you know, not a problem. Anytime we have an animal that we process and there's parts of the animal that we cannot utilize anymore, compost pile, and it breaks them down. As you see here, a whole Guernsey cow in just 1 year, and that is all that we're finding of her at this time. You know, I did find a shin bone there. Sometimes we find the pelvis, but I don't see it. and I've moved this stuff around quite a bit, and I haven't seen it. If I find it, I pull it out, and not a big deal. A little word of caution, my spreader is gonna filter out any big pieces. So if that skull, if I didn't see it and I loaded it into the spreader, I would hear it bouncing around in there, and it would stay in there, and then I would take it out. And that'd be okay. It will bounce all the compost that's stuck in the eye sockets and the nose and everything. It would just bounce that all out, and then I just have a skull. You would not want things like that to be on the field, because we do cut this with a haybine that has a single sickle bar that goes back and forth. And anytime we hit something with that sickle bar that's not grass, you run the risk of damaging it, which happens 2-3 times a year. You know, stuff gets out there somehow, and then I mow it. Sometimes BB guns and tools and chains off motorcycles. Oh yeah, we see that. I don't know how they get out there. Somebody drops them out there at night. Some gremlins does that. But a bone would do the same thing, or could potentially do the same thing. So we don't want to be leaving that out there. Okay, so I'm going to break off. I'm going to mix this stuff up. And my next step after that will be to bring the spreader over. I have not used it since early spring, and I believe there was a repair that needed to be done on it. So I may be a little bit, and then we'll make the first run and see how far we go with 1 yard. So I estimated 20 yards out here. My bucket is 1/3 of a yard, and the spreader holds exactly 1 yard. It's 300 gallons. So we'll know when we're done how many yards there were here and how far it's going to go. And then I go as far as I can, and that's it. Now, a good pattern to do this field would be right down the middle and then skip 10 feet and then make another one, because like they will connect up, you know, and you will see it next year. I can actually see on this field where we had chicken tractors last year. I won't bother turning it around because I don't think the camera will be sensitive enough to see it. And I know the pattern that they're moved in, so I can pick it out on the field there. So we will make a difference here. Let's talk the numbers a little bit. I told you what the seed goes for. It's cheap. This is one way to spread it. You can always just come out here with a spreader, or just be driving along and throwing seed out if you want, because you're adding to the seed bank. It won't go, you know, it won't go wrong. It may be there for a lot of years before any of it ever germinates. But if you are doing composting, you're probably thinking along the same lines as grazing too. So when we graze the cattle out here, their hoofs are pretty sharp, and there's a lot of weight, and they actually break the soil open. They break the sod open. And if you have a good solid seed bank there, who knows what could germinate. You could get I've had a rogue sunflower seed come up out here. Where did that come from? You know, but it's probably in something that the cows ate, and up it came. And that's a good sign. Uniformity, too much uniformity does not mimic nature. Like whenever we're in doubt, I think I always mimic nature. And so in nature on a field, you'll find lots and lots of species. So if I see something new, some new species, I'll grab it and then add it to the seed bank. That field down there, 1 year I got my hands on several bags of clover that had been broken open, and the lady at the co-op said, if you want those, I'll make you a whale of a deal. And I took them and I spread them in the fall, and I forgot all about them. And it's years later, probably 4 or 5 years later, I'm walking out there and wow, where did all this clover come from? It was thick and it covered everything. And clover has the ability it's a nitrogen fixer. So it sort of healed the soil down there. And now that is a grassy field. It used to be a swamp field. Like there was a bunch of cedar growing out there. It was, you couldn't do anything with it. That was the notorious field where I got a tractor stuck out there, and my neighbor was pulling me out, and he said, yeah, I got stuck on here back in like 1952. I said, yeah, how'd you get out? And he says, well, the guy that lived here came down with his mules and pulled me out. And when he did, he said to me, you damn fool, I don't even go in there with my mules. So that's the mule field, and we don't go in there. Well, we can now. I can drive in there. I drove in there to cut down all the trees that were on it. The trees died out for some reason. The fertility of the field went up, and the trees died out. The cedars that were in there, and we made fence posts out of them, which was a good thing. All right, I'm gonna get this mixed up and start to spread. Anyone can.